Hi, so today I wanted to talk about this awesome new post that Team Liquid made advertising for their head coach. So welcome to Mind Games TV, episode 10, number 10, Team Liquid's head coach. So I have the information like up here, so I'm going to kind of be looking up there. So sorry if I break eye contact a couple times. And I wanted to come at this posting from two different angles, so you'll kind of see as I get into it. So first I wanted to talk about the requirements versus the responsibilities. I think there's a big mismatch here, that an opportunity that's being missed by Team Liquid. So I'm going to go through the responsibilities. Well, actually, first I'll go through the requirements, and then I'm going to go through the responsibilities and kind of explain where I think that they're missing an opportunity to increase the requirements for this job and get like a proper head coach that could really make an effect on their team in like a very different way than kind of what they're looking at right now. So first of all, the job requirements: fluency in Korean and English. That's pretty cool. They're looking for somebody who can communicate like really deeply with their whole team and coach them like in their native tongue, which I think is pretty important. I'm not sure how much success they're going to have with that, but I think it's definitely a worthwhile goal. It kind of like limits their selection ability quite a bit. But maybe they'll find their dream candidate, and it's always worthwhile to pursue, especially when you have somebody who's like native language that they would be most powerfully coached in from a psychological perspective, when that happens to be a foreign language. And by the way, bilinguality gives you a lot of opportunities in the United States, but countries like Finland, like I come here and I mean the bus drivers speak like 3 languages, so it's not really that amazingly special in a lot of European countries. Outside of places like France where people don't study so much. Sorry, French people. I love you guys. Okay, UK, you guys are just as bad. Anyway, so number 2, the ability to recognize conflict and necessary skills to resolve it. That's pretty essential, I think, in any coach, and I'm glad they're asking for that. And that comes like prepackaged, a lot of, maturity, people with work experience. The third one, the capacity to work in a partnership with a co-coach or assistant coaches. Cool. Good that you can work in a team. Number 4, cursory knowledge and active awareness of the latest in statistical research and analytic trends across esports. So there's a mismatch in this statement. A cursory knowledge, then they say must be able to create original research. So I think that what they're asking for there is not actually original research. I think they're asking more for like Excel spreadsheets or something like that. I have a 4-year degree in mathematics, and part of my job is teaching research methods and like explaining to people what ANOVA is and what independent and dependent variables are. That's not like a normal skill that you're going to get. And research statisticians, like the people who work in my development department at my university, pull in like massive salaries for their sheer ability to understand statistics at the level to create original research. So I'm guessing that due to what they're listing for their salary, what they're really asking for here is just like the ability to create original ideas kind of based on these trends and to keep up on them and to understand more or less what's going on. That's my take on that statement. But then again, if you have all of the package and you can do that and you really want to work for this salary, then kudos to you. Okay, number 5, a strong understanding and appreciation of news and story play. I think that's pretty cool. They really want somebody who can create narratives, which I think is important, because in order to shelter players from narratives, you have to create powerful narratives of your own and then moderate the ones that are out there in the news and the environment and know what is good and bad. So I think that's pretty cool that they want somebody who's savvy with storytelling. Okay, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 6, multitasking. Okay, cool. 7, excellent verbal communication skills. Okay, awesome. Education and relevant job experience. 5+ years working in a team environment, including previous leadership roles. I think that's important to notice that they're not asking for 5 years of leadership roles, but 5 years of experience in a team and possibly have worked your way up to leadership roles. So that means that like what they're asking for in terms of salary might be more doable for somebody who's like, been in a team environment for a number of years, like as a volunteer or something, and kind of has worked their way up to leadership. Strong preference will be given to applicants with managerial experience on sports teams. That's smart, Okay, so now responsibilities. There's a couple places I wanted to draw attention to mismatch where I see that they could like push some of these into the requirements role and really look for like a head coach, somebody who they could put the team on their shoulders and the responsibility on their shoulders and say, like, we want you to deliver results. So number 1, work closely with the executive staff to develop, manage, and create esports coaching and support team consistent with TL missions. Okay, so that's cool. You have to be able to work closely with the executive staff. So that kind of gives the hint right away that you're going to be like, oh, you kind of saw me. I got a cold and I'm wearing this. Sorry, Team Liquid, you guys. I love you all. I just happen to be wearing this today, so whatever. If you want to send me a jersey, I'd love to wear it on screen. Sorry, CLG. Oh man, I'm burning so many bridges today. Okay. Yeah, cool. So working with the executive staff, that sounds kind of like, head coaching. Okay. 2, manage scrim schedule for the team, obviously. 3, evaluate own and opponent capabilities, obviously. Goes in with like understanding statistics and not the statistics, but the latest in research and analytic trends that they listed below. Evaluate your own and opponent's capabilities. Oh wait, I already said that one. Okay. Supervise scrims, match play, and practice environment. Okay, they just said supervise, scrim, match play, and practice environment. I think that the experience that Team Liquid has with coaches is maybe not the extreme level of coaching that that I think that they could push esport coaching to, that I know other teams have, for example. And so when you don't supervise a scrim, you train a team through a scrim. Nowhere in their responsibilities do they really list like training the team, like causing learning moments in their pro athletes, teaching them how to learn better mechanics, how to operate strategy in the game, and all of these things. I think that like my impression of Team Liquid's and actually sometimes even TSM's like coaching methodology involves like post-scrim review sessions. And so in those situations, the analyst is like kind of, just talking about stuff, and the coach might mention a few things about communication, and that's it. And so there's no, like, I don't think that they have any expectation that somebody would be capable of doing that without realizing that, like, that is exactly what coaches do, is they get in their nitty-gritty in the training, and they actually know how it is that motor movements are mastered, like how it is that you master a craft, the requirements necessary for that, the levels of focus, what lack of focus looks like, how to up focus, how to like create drills and train exercises and activities like in game, and exactly what training is. So I think that they could really push that particular responsibility like so much farther and push it down to the requirements. But that would mean that they would actually be seeking a coach who really knows how these things work and knows how the brain works and how the brain learns a sport. And let's be honest, like the reason that League of Legends is not a mental game is because you have to do a perfect motor movement. You have to master a particular motor movement. It doesn't matter really how small it is. The point that you have to master, the fact that you have to program that into your brain means that your reflexes must be trained in the way that an athlete's reflexes are trained to do a motor movement, whether it's minor or gross motor movement, is a pretty big difference for fitness, but not really a big difference as far as like training. Okay, so then the next one, assist the owner and GM in the recruitment, training, and selection of players for LCS League team and Challenger teams. Okay, so I think that this reveals really Team Liquid's mentality going into that, which is that the coach here is going to be an assistant, kind of like a subservient life coach for the owner and the GM in terms of recruitment, training, and selection. My vision of a head coach and the way that I see it function in a lot of teams is that the head coach is kind of in charge of the team. So they're in charge of staffing decisions related to all of the other coaching staff, the people who touch their athletes. They're given budgets for that, but they have the final say. They're in charge of recruitment and selection. They have the final say, and that they are in charge of starting lineup, sub lineup, and all of these things. And the reason that works in sport is because they also take the responsibility for wins and losses. Like, it's not on the player's back if the coach fails to, over the course of 2 seasons, like recruit, train, and create a winning team. And at that point, like, it's the coach that takes the responsibility because they had the responsibility, they had the ability to do all that stuff. And so when you put a coach in charge of a team and they don't have like final say on staffing decisions, who they're working with, on who their players are, on who's on the starting lineup, and these kind of things, they lose a lot of agency. They lose a lot of effective power of the players, and they lose a lot of their ability to actually create results based on their own philosophy and methodology. Now, I understand that like the owner and the GM of an esports team are probably way more invested in the brand than somebody who's more independently wealthy and owns like an NFL team that is kind of has like a whole system going and is not in danger of disappearing and being relegated out of a season. But that being said, if you hire a professional coach and you give them that work environment, you can expect and demand those kinds of results and assist them in a lot of ways that give them autonomy while monitoring the process and making sure they don't screw it up too much. So I think that when I look at the salary and kind of that particular line, I kind of understand that what they're looking for is more of like a grandiose babysitter, maybe, in a way, rather than like a head coach. But maybe like I'm misreading that line, or maybe they meant it kind of in the reverse sense. I'm not really sure, but that's the sense I get just reading that. Okay, and then it says recruit, train, communicate, and evaluate volunteer coaches and analysts. Okay, obviously. Arrange for appropriate venue supervision. Cool. Understand all athletic rules and regulations. Yes, great. Monitor the overall health and condition of the athletes. This, I think, is another one that reveals a certain level of intensity. So obviously, on the one level, you can have somebody who's paid 32 grand and takes the job, and they monitor the health, means that like, okay, did you eat cereal this morning? Great. Or you can have a professional coach, and monitor the health means like making sure that they're mentally and physically fit to perform at all times in all ways, from micronutrient contribution to their diets, pre-LCS, monitoring their glucose intake and protein intake, like before scrims, making sure that they, not before scrims, before LCS, making sure that they, they don't eat anything that's going to like give them alkaline tide, stuff like that, prior to matches, making sure that, they don't develop overdeveloped or underdeveloped forearms by making sure that they do correct and proper kinds of weight training, whether it's with kettlebells or like basketball or other sports and things that involve, like rehabilitation prior to actually being injured, like making sure your reflexes are going to be top key, making sure that people are physically active so that they can think straight and well during the training sessions, during the training co-op, post-ops, and all these sort of things. Like there's so far you can take this, monitor the overall health and condition of the athletes to a level of performance that I think is going to be required going forward in esport, that this sentence like totally does not appear in the job requirements. It's there in the responsibilities. It's not in the job requirements. And so it makes me think that they don't understand exactly how far you can push this concept in terms of optimizing performance. So that worries me, because I'm a huge Team Liquid fan. Troubleshoot with parents and coaches. That's cool. I think that a lot of people will have those capabilities. Deliver performance results. Obviously, the coach is in charge, is responsible for delivering performance results. But again, if you neuter them before you even hire them by making them like into some sort of like non-agent role where they don't have agency in their own job, then your expectations for their performance results are a little bit misaligned, because they didn't really have the ability to create those performance results anyway. They can just kind of take the dough that you hand them and try to mold it, but they can't actually make the dough from scratch. Read and answer emails promptly. That would be amazing, but they might be getting a lot of emails. Maybe that was a problem before with the previous coaches. Carry out directives from supervisor, communicate needs for materials, supplies, blah, blah, blah. Awesome. So basic workplace skills. Prepare and complete daily activity tracking and enter the information to eTapestry. Cool. Maybe they're collecting health data for their health insurance. Who knows? That'd be pretty awesome. Ensure inviting and friendly atmosphere. Per each program requirements, all paperwork must be completed. Yeah, paperwork, obviously. You got to get the paperwork down so that you don't end up in Korea with a jungler who can't actually participate in Worlds. Sorry, there's a pot shot there. It sucks. Visa stuff sucks. I know all about it. I've traveled to all sorts of crazy countries. Took me 6 months and over $600 to get a visa to go to Russia for 10 days. And there was no way that was going to be accelerated in any way. I mean, they were asking, like, you know, my grandparents' political affiliations to find out if I was a spy. So some of these things just going to happen in esports, shockingly, unless you're really familiar with like the Schengen zone. Okay, so that is all of the responsibilities and requirements. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. And I feel like Team Liquid is at a ideological or a paradigm shift. They're either going to end up with a lot of really qualified applicants and hire somebody who fits the mold of what they kind of envisioned when they wrote this, which will set them up really well for doing the same thing that they're doing right now, I think, maybe slightly better. And they'll keep up with the teams that are doing what they're doing right now and slightly better. Or they might end up with some applicants that are really pushing the envelope. Like somebody might write in and say, hey, I will do what you want for $100,000. And here's my qualifications. I have 5 years working with a sports team, you know, as a head coach. And I will do all of these things to a level that you kind of don't anticipate. And then they might say, hey, that's awesome. That's exactly what we need. And end up paying a lot more money than they were expecting out the gate. But I think it kind of depends on what they believe actually works in this field. And I think that it's kind of silly to wait for evidence, because all you have to do is look at traditional sport to see how effective proper coaching is and what trained coaches can do with athletes. So my expectations of how it will go are that I think that people are going to apply that kind of push the envelope, and I believe that they're going to also ask for more money, because they're going to say, this is an opportunity for me to convince them that that I'm worth it, and that this is worth it, and that they should invest in myself. And I really encourage people to do that. If you are one of those people who's like really frustrated right now because you're like, I want to apply for this job and I can't believe they're asking me to leave like an $80,000 a year position to go work for $32K, you could say, well, I'm going to apply and say, like, this is the salary I'm making right now. Feel free to, make me an offer, and they might do it. I think that I've already seen evidence of really progressive thinking in esport, and I think that if people want to catch up to what other teams around the world are doing, that they're going to be willing to spend the money to win. Yeah, and again, so sorry about the CLG swag. I was just really cold, and it happened to be laying right there, and I just put it on. I don't know why it was laying right there. It just kind of like ended up in my luggage at some point. So again, apologies to the other teams. If you do want to send me a hoodie, I'll make sure I wear them all together at the same time, so I can just peel them off for whatever video I'm doing. Ciao.